Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest 8-second gaming, and in today's video we are going to be breaking down the patch 6.08 agent tier list. Everyone likes to know where the agents are falling in the meta, and today we're going to be breaking it down. One of the most horrifying modern day problems is identity theft, and that is why we are pleased to present today's video sponsor, Aura. Like guys, just quickly, imagine this. You're in college, and at the same time you're working a restaurant job just to make ends meet. At the end of the day, you check your account with that $400 you just deposited, only to find out that you're actually overdrawn $300. If this ever did happen to you, it would feel like your whole entire world was over, right? But if you had Aura, the fraudulent transaction would be flagged as such, so you can do something about it and work with the Aura team and your bank to make everything right. It's the all-in-one package, including identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, VPN, password management, and much more, so that you are fully protected and worry-free. And there's no better time to get this because Aura is actually giving every GameLeap viewer 2 weeks completely free of charge. So you can test their product and see how good it truly is with zero risk. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description or in the comment section to get Aura right now. But okay, with that out of the way, let's hop back into things. And I do want to make one thing very clear before we kind of actually break everything down. You are able to climb with any agent that you want to. If you actually just one-trick them, learn them, absolutely dominate with them, you can climb. It doesn't matter where they fall in the tier list. This is just more where everybody's kind of stacking up right now in the ranked meta. But with that covered, let's hop into things and start off with the D tier. And in the D tier, we have two agents, that is Phoenix and Chamber. Now these two aren't necessarily weak, but they aren't necessarily strong either because they are extremely situational. Phoenix's ult can pop off. Chamber's ult can absolutely dominate if you are super accurate. They can be so strong in the situations that they are good in, but those situations are few and far between, and they are extremely map specific as well. If the stars don't align for you, you are losing so much of your power level. And with that being the case, they just drop super hard in the meta and find themselves in the D tier. But that's our D tier done, so let's move into our C tier, and finding themselves here are Brimstone, Cypher, Astra, Neon, and Sage. Now starting off with Brimstone, he has seen a little bit of a resurgence in the meta. A lot of people kind of moved away from him and now they're starting to pick him back up. But the issue with him right now is everything other than his smokes just are a little bit underpowered. All the other agents that do offer smokes have a little bit more power and utility with their other abilities, but right now Brimstone just doesn't have the same usefulness. If they give him a little bit of buff on something else on his kit, then I could see him kind of moving back in the meta a little bit more because then his ability usage would be there. But until that happens, he's kind of just going to be around C tier in my opinion. But now let's move into our next agent, Cypher, and Cypher can absolutely lock down a site. He can hold something down extremely well, but again, it's map specific, and if he's on attack, he's losing a lot of his usefulness. But for the times that he does absolutely pop off, he's so strong, and that's why I have him in the C tier. But now let's move into our next agent, and this is Astra. Now don't let the spot on this tier list fool you. Astra can absolutely dominate and carry a lot of different positions because of how hard she makes it to push sites. She has a lot of utility in one package. She's got smokes, she got stuns, she got gravity wells, and a huge screen that blocks damage and sound. With her, it's more of what she can't do. But the reason that I have her so low on this tier list is because she's extremely hard to use, and for like 95% of the population, they're not going to be able to use her properly, and they're going to be losing out on a ton of her abilities. I've seen so many people pop everything in the wrong spot and really kind of mess their team up as well, because people can't see the smoke, they can't see the wall either, they get messed up just as much as the enemy team, and Astra is kind of really hard for somebody to use well. And if you can mess up your own team just as much as the enemy team, I don't see her being any higher in the meta, and that's why I put her in the C tier. But now let's move into our next agent, and this is Neon. I'm gonna sound kind of like a broken record here, but Neon is just so good on the right map, but again, the right map has to fall into your hands. This seems to be the case with a lot of different agents, and I'm pretty sure it's intentional because Riot wants to make people have a balanced agent pick pool, but again, Neon really needs that perfect setup and that perfect map. She can be cool, her movement can be cool, but if she doesn't have the perfect setup, she just doesn't really have a lot of usefulness on a team other than you just trying to farm clips for TikTok. But now let's talk about our last agent in the C tier, and this is Sage. Sage's heal can be extremely clutch. There's been a lot of times that I've peeked something that I probably shouldn't have peeked, and she was right there to give me a healing orb and made it so I was actually able to go and play the round without having to worry about everything. But she did get hit pretty hard with some nerfs, and there haven't really been any changes to her kit recently, so right now her kit is good, but it's not anything fantastic. The revive can be clutch, the heal can be clutch, the wall can be clutch, but they're not anything super game breaking or game changing because again, they're just not that overpowered or strong. They just need some buffs. So she's not that powerhouse pick. She's just kind of a pick that's nice to have on your team, but that's why she's on the C tier, because she doesn't need to be on a team. It's just kind of a quality of life thing. But that's our C tier done. So now let's move into our B tier, and there's 4 agents finding themselves here. This is Raze, Sova, KO, and Yoru. Now all the agents in the B tier kind of fall into the same position in my opinion. They're good, but they all are kind of balanced in their own certain way. And while some people might be sitting there saying, well, isn't being balanced a good thing? Yes, it is, but in a game where you need every single little edge in order to win, being balanced isn't necessarily the best thing when it comes to power level. Raze is kind of like a baby Jet with her movement. She can do some cool things, she can clear some spots with her boom bot, and she has a lot of pick potential with her ultimate. But it's not as fast react as Jet, and there are a little bit more counters to it. So if she gets maximum usefulness out of her kit, it can be good. Same thing with Sova. You can get a ton of different information out of him. He can tell where people are, he can clear sites, he can even protect the bomb with his shock darts, but his dart's pretty easily to be countered, his drone's pretty easy countered, and if they're not actually really good at lineups, the shock darts aren't super scary. And KO and Yoru are kind of in this weird spot together, where everyone thinks they're either super overpowered or super underpowered. I've seen so many people arguing online whether KO and Yoru are S+ tier or D tier, but in my opinion, I think they're just middle of the pack, and you see somebody absolutely pop off on them, so that's why they think they're S tier, but other people see people that are just absolutely horrible at them and they think they're D tier, and that's why they kind of fall into this weird kind of limbo spot where nobody actually really knows where they go, but that's why I think they're in the middle of the pack. Now that is just my opinion. I do think it's going to be a little bit controversial for some people, so please let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. But that is our B tier covered, so let's move into our A tier. Now the agents finding themselves in the A tier are Breach, Killjoy, Reyna, Omen, Skye, and Harbor. Starting off with Breach, he's got so much utility. He's got great flashes, he can clear sites, he can stun people. Doesn't matter what you really want to do because he's able to kind of do it. If you want to solo carry, if you want to support, if you want to be your own man, if you want to overthrow governments, he can do it. But he has been hit with some nerfs and his kit has changed a little bit. The meta's kind of changed a little bit. So he's not the S tier agent that he used to be, but he still is very strong, and that's why he's in A tier. Now next up we have Killjoy. She was the only agent that did receive any nerfs going into this patch because she was a little bit too overpowered going into things recently. She has been hit with some nerfs before and she just got hit with this one, so she did lose a little bit of her area denial, but she still has a ton of it with everything in her kit combined. So she's not the S agent that she used to be, but she still is good, and that's why she's in A tier. But let's move into our next agent, and this is Reyna. Now some people do rank Reyna pretty low on their tier list, but for the most part it's people that think she's more of a solo agent, and while that is the case, a lot of people do solo queue in their ranked climbs. Reyna can be extremely good at popping off. If you are an absolute fragger on her, you can do so much for your team, and she unlocks a ton of potential with her healing and her sight stealing and everything like that. I get that she's not really used in pro play. I get that a lot of people don't really like her on those kind of team comps, but you guys have to remember, pro play is a lot different of a situation. Those are people that play together every single day, all on a 5-stack, all working at the same goal. They have so much communication, and Reyna does not fit into that role really that much. However, the people that do solo ranked and don't really trust their teammates to help them out a little bit, Reyna can be very good for you because she's just a one-man army, and that's why I have her in A. Now, if you like being a team player while still being able to have a ton of kill potential, Omen is the one for you. He can play around with his little mini teleport, he can steal people's sight, he can smoke stuff off, he can play around with his big boy teleport. He's able to do so much against the enemy team that it's not even funny. However, it is still pretty counterable. His sight stealing isn't perfect, his teleports aren't perfect either, so he's not stupidly broken S tier, but he is really good, and that's why he's in A tier. Now next up we have Skye, and she is probably one of the best agents at clearing sites. Everything that she can do to kind of make people's life miserable, she's doing it. She can flash, she can heal your team, she can do a bunch of different stuff. She's very good. But her flashes are pretty loud and easy to be countered, and everything else can be shot pretty easily. And her heal does require you to be right next to your teammate and kind of sit and do nothing for a little bit. So she's not, again, broken, but she's still very strong and an A tier agent. But she's very straightforward, so let's move into our next agent, Harbor. And he's probably one of the most surprising ones for me personally that has kind of moved up in the meta, because before nobody really understood his kit all that much and he wasn't really that good of a pick. But now we've been seeing him a lot in pro play, and people are actually starting to understand the different ways to use his abilities, and it turns out he's actually a pretty strong agent. When used properly, this guy can deny so much and also be super offensive at the same time. He's actually a pretty cool agent. He's definitely one that I've personally been thinking about adding into my agent pick pool. You can protect your planter or diffuser, you can push people with his offensiveness, he can make a lot of spots really hard to push as well. His ultimate's actually pretty cool as well and can deny a lot of area, but it still feels like his kit is just missing something to put him into S tier. What that something is, I can't quite put my finger on it, but right now I just don't think he's that strong. But that is our A tier done, so now let's move into S tier, and find themselves here are Jett, Viper, Fade, and Gekko. Now, I don't think it surprises anybody to see Jett here. She's been strong pretty much since the game came out. She has so much offensiveness, and she's able to peek stuff that normal people can't do, and if you throw an operator on her, she just can carry a game solo easily. On top of that, she can do really good things with economy because she doesn't necessarily need a weapon when she has her ultimate, and if she gets a couple kills with it, then she's just popping off with all the money. She can make it rain. She can block sightlines, she can get different angles, she can dash in, she can do everything, and that's why she's in the S tier. But moving into our next agent though, we have Viper. Now right now it does seem like Riot is moving away from the Sentinel role, so the people that can lock down sites are kind of getting phased out. But Viper, being a controller, is able to do that extremely well. She has a ton of different line of sight abusals, she has a ton of different area denial, she can lock down sight and also be very useful on attack as well. She kind of does it both, and that is why I definitely think she's still S tier. And if people want to push her, it can be an absolute nightmare. Even if she's solo holding a site, if you're able to do things properly, you can easily solo hold site. She's still really strong and still is definitely deserving of the S tier. But moving into our next agent though, we have Fade. Now I absolutely love Fade, but it's not anything to do with her abilities or anything. I just have a very soft spot in my heart for goth girls. So she's S tier in my opinion alone off of that, but her kit right now is extremely good as well. She can mess around with people's audio, she can mess around with people's sightlines, she can actually track people extremely well. And while some people think that the Prowlers are a little bit underpowered, if you use them a little bit outside the box, they can still be really good. You send them out, people get a little bit overconfident in just shooting them, you swing with the Prowler because they're looking for that and not you, you can get an easy kill. I definitely think people are overreacting with how far they've dropped her in some tier lists. In my opinion, she's still an absolute powerhouse and she can be a great addition to your agent pick pool if you need somebody new. But the last agent in the S tier is Gekko. And now that we've had a little bit more time to play with him, people have been able to test things out, I definitely think he's still a very strong agent. Honestly, I think he's S tier alone for wingmen. Being able to plant or defuse without having to do it yourself is so broken in my opinion. You don't need to throw yourself out of position, you can protect yourself, and you don't really have to pay attention as much to what's going on with the defusal times because your wingman's doing it for you. On top of that, Mosh Pit is also really good at denying a lot of area, and he has an undodgeable flash. If you do not shoot it, if your accuracy is not good enough to kind of get that while it's going out, you get gooped and there's nothing you can do about it. Though I do think one of his downfalls is his ultimate because it is a little bit hard to hit. If you're not really good at hitting that thing, you can miss it a ton of different times, but it's still good at getting information on where people are. But let me know if you would change any agents' positions in the comments down below, and if you guys want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest Valorant tips, tricks, and news, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I'm 8 Second Gaming, and I will see you guys in the next one.